RWBY Volume 8, Episode 11, Risk. So this is a decent episode. It took me a minute to actually watch it because for whatever reason they didn't update Verve, which is where I typically watch the show, and so it wasn't on there early. And I was like, all right, I'll wait a little bit. And so I ended up doing a bunch of stuff, and I honestly just forgot because I got into like just random other video stuff, and then I was like, oh yeah, I should probably check RWBY. Still never showed up, so I had to use like yet another random email address so that I could get the premium, free trial on Rooster Teeth. Because apparently I used it with my other stuff probably like 6 effing years ago for like an episode of Volume 2 or something. And apparently they keep track of that stuff. So unfortunately, I had to use like yet another random email. But I like the episode. We got some cool stuff in it. Of course, today in my review, I have 2 pillows because Ruby and Yang had a decent little moment. It was emotional. I was surprised to see Yang instantly cry as soon as Ruby said that. I was like, oh, I felt like it was super fast that she instantly started crying. I was like, I feel like that doesn't really fit her character. I feel like it wouldn't fit really anyone just randomly breaking down like that just out of nowhere. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I could kind of see someone like instantly breaking down because she never, it just never really crossed her mind. It was just like, there's no hope to ever, find their mom. Which, I don't know. I would love to know. I would love to know. Do you guys think she's going to randomly pop up in this show? Like, is she somehow magically still alive? Because I assume that they're kind of just saving that for at some point where it's going to be like, surprise guys, she's totally alive. And I just have to wonder, like, what would that really do for the show? Like she'd have to be doing so much stuff to never have run into the characters. And there's just so many things. Because it's like, if she's, fighting against Salem, but behind the scenes, there's still elements of that where it's like, that's the whole series is like all of these characters. Not like, it's not just Team RWBY anymore. It's like 2 teams. We got a bunch of adults. Like, there are a lot of people going up against Salem, and for no one to have randomly come across her, including the villains, it just seems odd. And I'm just like, it almost makes more sense that she is just dead, and we just wait to find out officially what happened. And so maybe they'll do that. Maybe she will end up being alive. I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a while, but this episode definitely made me think, like, what if she did just actually come back? Because it was a big thing before, and I feel like the further the series goes on, the less I actually think about her actually being alive. But then it's just like, she disappeared, and no one knows where she went because she just left or whatever, and it's just like, that's almost a recipe for a character, coming back from the dead. So it's just like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, however many seasons down the line we get, just to be like, are they going to officially kill her off, or are they going to bring her back? And it's just like, who knows? She might be frozen somewhere, and that's what happened. Who knows? But they have their emotional moment where it's like, that's, what ended up happening to Mom, and she would kill people. Salem would kill people with silver eyes, but for whatever reason, she wants, RWBY mentions, like, she wants me alive, so it must be because she figured out, something new. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, let's kind of roll with that, and we'll, see how things go as they get closer to Salem kind of coming back, which I feel like won't be, because I think we only have 3 more episodes. So I mentioned this before. They'll probably either say that for the last episode or the last 2 episodes. And they might do like, a cliffhanger where she officially comes back in like the penultimate episode. And then in the actual finale, she's back. And then everyone's in their set places as to who's going to fight who. So looking forward to that, of course, with only 3 episodes to go. But I like that. My favorite part honestly had to be that we had what I feel is the best relationship moment in the entire series. It wasn't a bunch of stupid BS. It wasn't like this took forever to have. It did take forever, let's be honest. I mean, it was Nora and Ren. It did kind of take forever. But in this new version of what the relationship is after the kiss from last volume, I kind of enjoyed it. I was like, okay. So, and they touched on that as well, even earlier in the volume. I think it was in the episode when Nora actually ended up getting like the scars and stuff. They talk about her kind of figuring things out on her own, like her and Ren. It was always Ren and Nora. That was how it's always been ever since she was found by him. They've always been together, and that's just how it is. They're basically a couple, but not really a couple, stuff like that. So it was really interesting to see them have this conversation, and Ren dealing with a lot of the anger issues that he's had more recently, and his constant, what he sees as his constant failures. And I like the way that the conversation ended up playing out. I like how they had Jean there, where he was like, it started off where he was like, I need to apologize to both of you because, I was mad. He took back what I still feel was one of his best moments, which was like, they are a bunch of dumb kids. Like, I thought that was a good moment. He didn't need to apologize, but he was like, it was kind of mean, like we were losing. I felt like they were all, he put all of the burden, on himself. So he had a good moment, and then they had the ending, and I like how they did it with Jean, where he was like, I wasn't a good teammate or a good partner, and Jean was kind of there, and then he's just looking between them, and it was like, because I'm sure in his head somewhere was like, partners are teammates. What is he talking about? And he's like, oh, I see. And so he has, he takes off, and then they have their official moment where it's like, he says that he loves her, and it was interesting at first because, excuse me, I really wish I had some stuff with them, with Ren and Nora. I wish I had some Ren and Nora pillows, but it was really funny for a second because he's like, I love you, and she just kind of turned to the side, and I was like, ooh. Well, this is interesting. This is a tough moment, huh? And so then she explains it, and she's like, I've always loved you, but I need to figure out. It's really a super mature. Like, that's probably a part of why I love it so much, because it's honestly one of the greatest things you can do in real life. If you're in a relationship with someone, or you have feelings for someone, and it's kind of their situation where it's just like you've been friends for such a long time that you never really thought about it. Especially in their case, it's literally just been the two of them. Like, basically, both their families are completely wiped out. They only existed, as a pairing since childhood, pretty much. So it's a very unique situation. And so she was like, I've always loved you, but in order for us to be in a legit relationship, I have to figure out who I am outside of Ren and Nora. I just have to be Nora for a minute, and then figure out how I can be a part of us. And I was like, I like that. That's a very mature thing. It wasn't super dumb. I didn't feel like it was super baity or anything. It was just like, I like that idea. I like the concept of that. They're still cool. They're still friends. They both know where they are. And they both respect the fact that Nora needs to, figure out her own thing because she wants to have her own identity. Like, Ren feels like he's, he already has that, and he also kind of went through his own struggle, specifically with, the failure side of things. So that kind of helped him get to that point where he knows that he does want to be with her. And then for Nora, because she was sure for so long, she has to almost kind of step back from that, being at 100% all the time and be like, let me just figure it out for sure. Let me figure out who the F I really am. And I was like, okay, that's simple. That's real life, plus superpowers, of course. But it was simple and it was real life. And I was like, I like this. It was really good. And they had the moment and they just, they put their heads together. And I was like, okay, that was good. I like that moment. We'll see what happens going forward. But I thought it was really good. So the two emotional moments they had, I definitely, felt Nora and Ren's was a lot better than Ruby and Yang's, but I like both moments. They're fairly decent. Emerald, I figured she was switching sides, but she officially decides to, towards the end of this episode. They end up saving Penny, and we find out that it's because Jean is able to boost her aura, and so basically the human side of her is able to help stave off the computer side of her. So I was like, okay, that's cool. You see that in other things, here and there. It's kind of a RoboCop sort of deal. Like, I'm still part human, so I have to kind of wrestle with the programming side versus the human having a soul sort of element. So I was like, okay, that was cool. They touched on it. Everybody, was throwing all their chains. I was like, I never really noticed how many people have weapons that are specifically just like, I can just hook something. And I was like, okay, yeah, Blake, I see it all the time. That's how she moves around. And it's like, okay, Ren has that too. And then Emerald, I was like, okay, I mean, that's only 3 people, but when you really look at it, it's just like 2 of those people literally basically only have guns that have hooks on them, because that's Ren's thing, and that's also Emerald's thing. It's literally just, these are guns with hooks on them. She has like revolvers and he has machine guns, so I guess that's really the difference. But I just thought it was interesting. I was like, their weapons are so similar and also green. Something random that I noticed that I never even thought of before, but I was like, huh, that's really interesting. But I like that little moment. We actually got to see Weiss use the black glyph. I just like seeing that. I don't know why, but she just doesn't use it very often. It's always just the summoning glyphs. So I love it. Every time we see a black glyph, I'm like, that's cool. I wish we saw more of it, because she has these abilities where it's like, there's a lot of possibilities, and she just summons a lot, and it's like, it's cool, but I love seeing her use some of her other abilities. But it was a nice little moment. They helped save Penny, and then it's like, oh, we can actually go to the vault. I don't know exactly what their plan is, but it's some risk, and I assume that it's, hey, why don't we actually go to the vault? We'll have Ironwood. We'll probably have the Aesops as our enemies or whatever, but the enemy of our enemy is our friend, because they know the villains are going to come after them as well. And they probably have some other plan too when they actually get to the vault, either to open it themselves or, to do something. So I am curious about what the exact plan is there, but I'm excited to see it. I thought this was a decent episode. They, of course, like the last thing, story-wise in this episode, I think we're going to pick up on, for sure, they have to in the next episode, which is Crow, Robin, Winter and Marrow becoming another little team, because obviously, in case you somehow missed the very obvious signal there, Marrow was about to die. Like, Ironwood was like, well, I guess I'm gonna put this dog down, and Winter came in and punched him in the face, and she saved his life. She was like, okay, you want to call her, I'm gonna take him down or whatever. And I was like, she just saved his life. That was clearly exactly what happened, because when everyone's speaking up, it's like, okay, obviously Harriet is just like soldier mode, and that's just her thing. She doesn't seem to care, and she's just like, it just makes her seem bad. Like, Ironwood's thing is him having like this weird semblance that people don't actually know about, but it just makes him determined to do stuff. And then with her, it was just like, nah, she's just following orders, and she's basically 100% mad at the heroes. And I'm like, like, they were being dumb. Like, all the dumb stuff that they did leading up to this moment, she's basically just stuck on that. Plus, the crow thing, I think, just sent it to 11. Because they were already doing dumb stuff before, like, lying and hiding secrets and then sharing secrets with other people. And then, once the crow thing hit, I think that sent, Harriet, like, way over the edge. Because it was just like, she already was having issues with them because of the issues that, started to build up in the last volume. And then, once it hit the end, it was like, all the dumb stuff you guys did was already annoying, and then you actually got somebody killed. So, of course, she hates them 100%. So, everyone, had their little moments. And obviously, Marrow, we all knew, was the one who was, like, the most against it. And then, obviously, Winter had, kind of the same thing. We saw her, not only letting the kids go, but just being like, oh, what the F is happening? Like, they even started off before they get to that moment where the Aesop's is talking, and it's like, well, of course he's not going to do it, I always freaking forget the names. Elm, jeez. Elm is like, oh, of course he's bluffing. Like, he would never actually blow up the city. And then it's like, oh, well, what if he does? And then it kind of just goes down the line. Like, I am totally against this. Like, oh, I mean, he won't actually do it. If this is the only way, then I guess what? I guess so. And then Harry's just like, fuck them. Who cares? That it was pretty much, that was kind of the lineage. It was like totally against it to, who the fuck cares about them? So, I don't know. That's just how it went down the line. So I am curious how that's gonna play out. They end it with Crow and Robin. The elevator opens and they're just like, oh, and then it just cuts and it never goes back. So it has to be that they ran into Winter and Marrow, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, we don't want him to blow up the entire city below us. So hey, let's team up. You can't kill him, but let's kind of team up and figure out what exactly we're gonna do. So I'm definitely excited for the last 3 episodes. Of course, the actual final scene in this episode, we get to see the villains kind of coming together. So we have Watts. I guess he was listening. I couldn't tell if he was trying to listen in on the phone call or if that was just him listening to a radio. I would assume it would have to be a radio, because it would be super random for him to specifically be honing in on like one type of signal. But I guess it's not that crazy. I don't know. So I couldn't tell if that was actually Ironwood's voice that was cutting in and out, and they know that they're all going to be at the vault, or if that was like a random person. So I just assume that it was him somehow instantly tapping into Ironwood's phone, because I'm like, if it was just some random person, it would be weird to cut from them having the phone call to them, to Watts like listening in to some random radio static, but they literally like kept the sentence going. So I assume that was meant to be Ironwood. I just couldn't tell because it was cutting in and out so much. I couldn't tell if that was actually him or not, but I assume it was. So going off of that, they know where they're headed. So it's like, all right, we know that Penny is actually going to get there. They're going to take her. I'm sure somewhere in that phone call, they explain like, hey, she's under this virus, but she's able to control it. So they're probably going to have a plan about that. And then, of course, Neo pops up and it's like, she just punched the umbrella. Cinder does her little evil smile. Boom, that's the end of the episode. So I am excited. 3 more to go. We'll end up seeing what happens. Emerald is now officially with the good guys. Ozpin comes in, he tells a fairy tale. He does his, his classic thing and just, words. I'm sorry, because he screwed up. So I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. Everyone seems to officially be coming back together. Everyone's a lot happier. They had the reunion in the last episode. This was the actual mending of relationships and be like, hey, with Ruby and Yang, like, well, your plan failed, but so did mine. But we did do some stuff that we didn't plan on doing that was very successful. Like, we helped a lot of people we didn't plan on helping. So it didn't exactly go either of our ways, but some good did come of what we decided to do, some of the risks that we took, and that's just how it is. So 3 more episodes to go. I am excited. I'm really looking forward to what they end up doing with Crow and Robin, especially because their whole story arc, this whole volume, with us literally 3 more episodes, every shot with them has just been a tease. I honestly thought we'd get story out of them like halfway through the season, because I'm like, okay, they showed them in the very beginning, and then when Watts gets taken out, and then they just never go back to them, and so then the explosion happens, and even that was like 3 episodes ago. I feel like the amount of time it actually took for them to leave after the explosion, this was the first episode, so that was like 3 episodes worth of this chaos of like Cinder going in and blowing up the place. And so they were technically still there, and then they teased like, oh, they officially got out in the last episode. And this episode we finally actually see them outside of the prison. Like after all this time, they're finally out. So they only had like 3 episodes. So I don't know how crazy it's gonna get, because like his whole thing is like, I'm gonna end this, which I assume is to kill Ironwood. So I'm very curious how that's gonna play out, because I'm like, we only got 3 episodes to go, so everything's about to start moving super quick, and they just got out. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll love to know your theories on everything that's going to come out of these last 3 episodes. And of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. Of course, with them going forward, my main thing that I want to ask you guys is, when do you think Salem is actually going to come back? Because I feel like they're going to save it for the finale. Like they're going to have all these battles, and it's like they're going to do this, hour-long time span or whatever. Everyone's going to end up coalescing either at the vault or just outside of it, whatever they end up doing. And then right when everything seems like, okay, we've solved whatever random issue is about to come up, whatever mini battles between Aesop's and Ironwood and our heroes, and then our tiny group of villains, all of that stuff is going to come together. And I'm still curious about Emerald. Is she going to end up truly betraying Cinder? That I have a question about, because Cinder is technically doing her own thing, but after the conversation with Watts, or really kind of being put in her place by Watts, I am curious how much she plans on going against Salem and continuing to do her own thing, where it was kind of told to her, loss after loss was specifically because you kept trying to be top dog when you decided to step in line, so you need to just stay in line. So I am curious how that's going to end up playing out when they eventually have that little climax where it's like Emerald has officially decided to change, but will she change back, at least to go with Cinder? Or if Cinder is officially sticking with Salem, does that officially keep them separated? And then of course that goes into the whole Mercury thing, and what's going to happen there. But I'm that's for next volume, unless they magically bring them back, which there's no way they're going to do that. But if they do, that'll be amazing. But like I said, we'd love to know your theories. When is Salem coming back? Who's going to live? Who's going to die? What's going to happen? So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.